When Bad Chad Customs first hit television, the spotlight immediately focused on Chad Hiltz. People were drawn to his bold designs, his raw energy, and the way he turned scraps into stunning custom cars. But hidden just behind the scenes was someone just as important. Her name was Jolene McIntyre. To the outside world, she was known as Chad's girlfriend and partner. She answered emails, helped in interviews, and appeared now and then on screen. But that small role people saw was only a tiny piece of the truth. Jolene wasn't just helping out. She was running the entire machine. While Chad shaped metal and chased creative ideas, Jolene kept the business alive. She handled the money, set the schedules, dealt with suppliers, talked to TV crews, and made sure everything stayed on track. Every deal, every deadline, every episode passed through her hands. Behind the cool cars and the excitement of TV, Jolene worked long hours to keep the whole thing from falling apart. Her job didn't come with titles or fame, but Jolene took on role after role. She was the shop's manager, the media contact, the organizer, the brand strategist, and sometimes even the emotional support system when things got tense. And still, she showed up every day with a calm smile. She stood next to Chad through the whirlwind of filming and tight deadlines. But while she looked steady on the outside, something inside her was beginning to break. Being the person who holds everything together might sound heroic, but it's exhausting when no one else is checking in on you. Jolene was stuck in a cycle. She kept everything running smoothly, but it was draining her. The shop she helped build, the dream she shared, was slowly pulling the energy out of her. She wasn't falling apart all at once. She was slowly breaking down, day after day, quietly and painfully. People didn't ask how long she could keep going. They just assumed she would. But the truth was, Jolene McIntyre almost walked away. And if she had, it might have brought everything crashing down. Before the TV show, before the fans, there was just Jolene and Chad in a small-town garage in Canning, Nova Scotia. Back then, things were simpler. The pressure was lower, but the dream was still huge. Chad had the creativity. He dreamed big. Jolene had the discipline to turn those dreams into something real. She didn't grow up around custom cars. She came from a world of business and education. She studied commerce. She understood budgets, planning, and how to make a company run. And she was determined to do things differently. Even though she didn't have a background in car building, Jolene wasn't scared of the mess or the hard work. She saw beauty in the chaos. So when the show got picked up for TV, it was Jolene who figured out how to keep it all from falling apart. She managed the production demands, balanced the books, ordered parts, and worked around the clock to meet expectations. While Chad was dreaming up wild designs, Jolene was making sure the money worked, the parts arrived, and the show stayed on schedule. But there was nothing glamorous about the work. Every win on screen was followed by stress and struggle behind the scenes. Jolene had to chase down payments, handle disagreements, and solve last-minute problems. She wasn't just the person beside Chad, she was the one keeping the business from collapsing. But the longer the show ran, the more her hard work became invisible. What started as a passion project turned into a machine. The network wanted more. The builds became more complex, and suddenly every moment was filmed. Every mistake was recorded. Every tear or argument became part of the show. Jolene was no longer just managing the shop. She was also managing a brand, a TV production, and a creative partner who didn't always work well with strict deadlines. Her days were filled from start to finish. She answered emails in the morning, made calls for supplies, checked invoices, reviewed scripts, and tried to keep everything moving. And after all that, she still had to be present on camera, with a smile. There were nights when she finished a 14-hour day, only to be asked to record a social media video. There were times her name was left off important branding. She was told to smile more, to look happy, to stay positive. She didn't want attention or credit. She just needed a little space to breathe. But in an industry that values output more than people, burnout doesn't get noticed until someone collapses. And Jolene was getting close. By the time the second season started, the signs were clear. Her spark had faded. Her bright energy was dimmed. She was no longer powering through. She was dragging herself forward. In small interviews and quiet posts online, her feelings started to show. She talked about the pressure, the exhaustion, and how hard it was to be everything to everyone. She wasn't looking for sympathy, she was just trying to be honest. She began to ask herself the question no one else was asking. Could she keep doing this? Even as the brand grew, Jolene felt like she was disappearing. She watched the company succeed while she was shrinking inside. She never made a dramatic announcement. She didn't cause a scene. But close friends noticed that Jolene was thinking about walking away. Not because she wanted to fail, but because she didn't want to lose herself. She had reached a point where it was survival or self-destruction, and if something didn't change, the choice would be made for her. The moment almost came one exhausting week. A part order was late. A TV producer was pushing for faster results. A payment slipped through the cracks. Jolene was tired. The team was on edge. Chad was chasing big ideas with no concern for time or cost. And in the middle of it all, Jolene looked around and realized no one had asked how she was doing. Not the crew, not the producers, not even Chad. Later in an interview, she said, "I felt like a machine, and even machines break." She left the shop that evening in silence. She drove home. She sat on her porch and cried, not because of one single thing, but because of everything that had built up for months. She wasn't ready to give up the dream, but she didn't know how to keep going. That night, she didn't check messages or review schedules. She sat with one question: should I walk away? Burnout is painful, but it forces clarity. Jolene reached her breaking point and finally spoke up. She sat down with Chad, not as a TV partner, not as a manager, but as someone who helped create everything from the beginning. She told him the truth. She told him how tired she was, how much pressure she carried, and how close she was to leaving. She explained that unless something changed, she would have to walk away to protect her mental health and sense of self. Chad listened. It wasn't easy for him to understand. Creative people don't always see the value of structure, but he understood what Jolene had given up for the dream, and he knew that if she left, the entire business might fall apart. So they made changes. They created clearer roles. They allowed more space for rest. Jolene started saying no to things that drained her. She stopped trying to do everything herself. Slowly, the weight began to lift. Jolene didn't need to quit. She just needed balance. She needed to stop giving every part of herself to a system that never gave back. She could have walked away, left the cameras, the pressure, the public image. She could have gone back to a quiet life, but she stayed, not because it was simple, but because she believed in the work. Jolene didn't stay for the attention. She stayed because Bad Chad Customs became a voice for people like her, for women in trades, for young dreamers in small towns, for those who never felt seen in this kind of world. She began speaking up more. She shared her story. She mentored others. She opened up about work stress and burnout. People listened, and they didn't just admire her for staying. They respected her for how she stayed, with purpose, with strength, with honesty. She wasn't just Chad's partner anymore. She became the reason the whole thing worked. As Jolene set boundaries, everything changed. The team worked better, the tension eased. Even Chad adapted. Jolene wasn't louder. She was more focused. Her social media grew, not because of flashy photos, but because of real words. She talked about real struggles, real leadership, real choices, and fans connected with that. Jolene became a symbol, not of fame, but of balance, of leading without burning out, of thriving in a tough industry without becoming hardened. In a world of noise, she proved that quiet strength can be even more powerful. Every message from fans reminded her that her presence mattered, that her story mattered, not for ratings, but for real people who needed to see that success doesn't have to cost your health. Jolene McIntyre never set out to be famous. She didn't plan to become a leader in car culture, but life gave her a role that fit her perfectly, and she rose to it. Today, Bad Chad Customs is still going strong. The builds are bold. Chad is still dreaming big. But now there is calm at the center of the chaos, because Jolene is still there, steady, strong, not just beside the shop. She is the shop, the strategist, the heartbeat, the reason it all still works. Fans admire Chad's talent, but now they know the truth. Without Jolene, there is no Bad Chad Customs. She showed that you don't need to scream to lead. That stepping back can be powerful, that choosing to stay is sometimes the bravest thing of all. Jolene didn't stay by accident. She stayed with purpose, with vision, with the quiet courage of someone who knows exactly who they are. And in the end, Jolene McIntyre wasn't just part of the story. She made sure the story could continue.